Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. This episode is being brought to you by Kalshi. On Kalshi, you can trade every single game. Use promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. I'm Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Monday show of Brewers Daily. Finishing up with a series win over the Minnesota Twins in the border battle over the weekend. Got to talk about some moves that the Brewers made transaction-wise over the weekend. Christian Yelich getting back into the lineup. Starting rotation kind of in flux here. We'll get into that as well. And looking ahead to the series starting today here against the Chicago Cubs, as the two rivals will go at it here in the I-94 rivalry series. And we got lots to get to with that one as well. Should be a fun week here with the Brewers. But let's talk about the weekend that was first with the Minnesota Twins. The Brewers getting the first two games of that series. Did not complete the sweep on Sunday. They had plenty of opportunities too. They went 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position on Sunday and just were not able to push enough runs across against the Twins. They were able to win a couple of one-run games on Friday and Saturday, which is great. They're very close games. Brewers arguably could have put up more runs, but they're able to pull out the wins, which was nice to see. You got to see Abner Uribe lose that closer spot for the time being. He was back in the 8th inning on Friday night's game. Trevor McGill got himself the 9th and was able to secure the save, so he was very excited about that one. Saturday, you get 5 from Logan Henderson, which were really good, and then Chad Patrick for the final 4 innings for his first career save. Despite it being a one-run game, Pat Murphy decided to ride with Chad Patrick and give him that opportunity. And it ended up working out pretty well for him with bullpen Chad Patrick. And then Sunday, you get Robert Gasser coming up, and he goes 4 innings. You go to the bullpen a bit more to give us more runs. Wind was causing some problems as well. Jake Bauers should have had maybe 2 home runs, but they got killed by the wind. Didn't stop Garrett Mitchell, though. Didn't stop Christian Yelich, who is finally back in the lineup. Christian Yelich came back on Tuesday last week, played in 1 game, and then has been out of the lineup ever since because he had back soreness. It was acting up on him. You get to Minnesota, you think, oh, okay, like he should be in there, and no, he was not in there. You want to give it another day. And is he in? Nope. Going to give it one more day for Christian Yelich. Finally comes back in the lineup on Sunday, and hey, hits a home run. Love to see it. Let's have some more of that from Christian Yelich. So hopefully the back issue can be behind him, and he can continue to play and play well and hit homers. That would very much be nice to see if Christian Yelich could do that, adding that thump to the middle of the lineup here. But also Garrett Mitchell getting a home run on a high fastball, 115.5 miles an hour. Arguably, let's round up, 116 miles an hour off the bat, 20-degree launch angle, just smoked it, okay? And doing it on a high fastball for Garrett Mitchell. Now, the high fastball is the weakness for Garrett Mitchell. He generally doesn't hit that pitch very well. Fastball's up in the zone. He has struggled with it. It's a big hole in his swing. A lot of pitchers have recognized that, and they've tried to exploit it. But this time, Mitchell is able to turn on it. Now, I know what a lot of you are probably going to say. Yeah, Dave, that was great, but that fastball is at 89 miles an hour. Bailey Ober isn't exactly going to be an overpowering pitcher there. It was 89, easier for him to catch up to it. And that may be, okay? It may have only been an 89-mile-an-hour fastball, but still, it's a fastball at the top of the zone that he was able to turn on, okay? So we're taking the wins where we can get them here, and perhaps that can build confidence. Perhaps he did make an adjustment in his swing that allowed him to be able to get on top of that. Because whether it's been 89 or 99 miles an hour at the top of the zone, he's still had issues with that location. So just being able to turn on something in that spot and make contact and make hard contact like that and have that success, we're taking that as a positive, we're taking that as a win, and perhaps that's something for Mitchell to build on here. Because, again, keep in mind, it wasn't that long ago that he just reached, 162 games at the big league level. over his 5 seasons in Major League Baseball. Like, he is just now kind of getting around to a full season of at-bats under his belt. And so much of that has been spent, trying to rehab and get caught back up and get back into the swing of things because he's dealt with so many injuries. So, for him to be able to have that adjustment, to be able to have that success against a high fastball, 89 miles an hour or not, we're taking that as a very big positive here for Garrett Mitchell. So hopefully that can continue as time goes on here as well, because the ceiling is just so incredibly high for him. And as long as he can make that adjustment on that high fastball, and you keep doing a couple of those, whether it's 89 or 99, guys are going to be looking at it and be like, maybe that high fastball isn't exactly where we want to go with Garrett Mitchell much longer. So he's going to need a couple more of those before he makes pitchers really kind of change their mind. But still, very, very positive step there. Unfortunately, could not result in a Brewers win on Sunday, and they could not complete the sweep against the Minnesota Twins. But still, positive steps, some positive things there from that series. Also, we got the Brewers digging into their rotation depth quite a bit here going through this series, and as they've been dealing with some injuries to this group. Coleman Crow was called up on Friday to make the start for the Milwaukee Brewers. Brian Fitzpatrick was sent back down to AAA Nashville. Unfortunate for my fellow tall lefty right there, but Coleman Crow comes up and does a really solid job in spot start duty, just like he had in Miami in his first spot start when he came up. Gets activated for one day, does really, really well, and showcases, that 3,000 RPM curveball, and he showcases some really good stuff, really good results, really good performance, showing that he's deserving of more opportunities. And the next day, he's immediately sent back down to Nashville. I mean, the poor kid can't catch a break in that sense. He can't even get 2 days worth of game checks being up long enough. He comes up, he gets one game check. That's it. You're heading back down to Nashville. I mean, still, hey, one's better than zero. But still, I would love to see more of Coleman Crow and to see him get maybe a bit more of an extended look and an extended opportunity in this rotation. But, I mean, he's very good, but there's also a lot of other really good options above him here and that are also getting opportunities. Logan Henderson, one of them, getting the start on Saturday there. And then Chad Patrick, you're trying to figure out what to do with him. Is he going to be in the rotation? Is he going to be in the bullpen? It looks like it's going to be more of a bullpen role for now for Chad Patrick. But Henderson's doing really well, and you'd have to imagine maybe even when Woodruff comes back that they would want to keep Logan Henderson in that rotation. Then you got Robert Gasser, who got called up to make the start on Sunday, which was very exciting. Robert Gasser making his 2026 season debut with the big league club. He's been pitching down in Nashville and doing a really good job there. But still, hasn't quite gotten the chance to fully get going at the big league level. Comes up, 4 innings. Pat Murphy in his post-game press conference seemed pretty displeased with Robert Gasser. He hit 3 batters. Had the breaking balls that just kind of kept going too far into the righties. A couple of walks. So he gave up 5 free bases. Pat Murphy, not a big fan of that. There was a play earlier in the game where, you get the relay throw going to home plate. Robert Gasser was not in the right position backing up, and the ball ended up going into the Twins' dugout for a 2-base error, which basically allowed for an inside-the-park home run, even though it was truly only a double. But that allowed another run to score. So Pat Murphy seemed a little displeased there with Robert Gasser in his outing, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Gasser go back down at some point soon here. I don't know if that's going to be today or some point in the near future, but I could very much see him getting sent back down, just with Murphy seeming pretty displeased with the 4 innings of work that Robert Gasser gave him. He didn't really seem to have his secondary stuff going. He wasn't really able to locate all that well. Seemed to be struggling with that, so that did not help his case. But you're getting Robert Gasser the opportunity. Henderson's gotten his opportunity, and he's been running with it so far. Coleman Crow has done really well with his options as the Brewers are again digging into this depth. Robert Gasser, the 11th starting pitcher for the Brewers in 44 games this season. that they played. They played 44. They've had 11 different starters already. So they're digging into this depth quite a bit, which is not surprising at all. Now, they've had a couple of openers in there, to be sure, but still, they're digging into this depth, and this is why they have this depth. This is why they acquired so much of it over the offseason. That's why you bring in a Brandon Sproat. That's why you bring in a Kyle Harrison. That's why you bring in a Shane Drowan. That's why you bring in all those guys, despite having Logan Henderson and Robert Gasser already in the system, was because you knew you were going to need all this depth, and they just keep turning to guys number 10 and 11 on the depth chart, and they can still give them some really good outings. I mean, Coleman Crow is probably behind Gasser. He's definitely behind Henderson and these other guys that are on the depth chart. But I mean, he comes up and he's able to shove for 5 innings. I mean, it completely changes the outlook there and where you're sitting. So it puts the Brewers in a very good spot as they go throughout the season, as they've been without lately Brandon Woodruff and Quinn Priester. But we're going to get to that here. But first, on Kalshi, you can trade every single game. That includes Brewers-Cubs here today, as this very important game is going to be getting going here in the National League Central, because this division is certainly becoming a nail-biter, and we kind of knew the cream would rise to the top here as the Brewers and Cubs are sitting here, and they are 1.5 games apart in this division. Now, the Cubs have played 3 more games than the Brewers as things stand right now. So that's kind of part of this. The Cubs are 29-18. The Brewers are 26-18 after the games here today. So or on Sunday. So you got 1.5 games is the difference between these clubs. You got 3 games to play here. So I mean, you can go up 1 game in the division. If you take 2 of 3, you move up 1 game. If you sweep them, if the Brewers sweep the Cubs, then you vault yourself into first place. But looking at today, some people don't seem to be giving the Brewers a chance in this one. So I'm looking at the spread here. The Brewers to win by 1.5 runs is currently trading at 33% on Kalshi, meaning a $100 trade pays out $290 with a win. And I'm feeling pretty good, especially with the way that Brandon Sproat has been pitching lately. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10, K-A-L-S-H-I, Kalshi, trade on anything. All right. Looking elsewhere at the starting rotation before we get into this Brewers-Cubs series, Quinn Priester. Is it time to shut him down? I think it is. Quinn Priester restarted his rehab assignment, so he started his second rehab assignment over the weekend with the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers in High A, and he got lit up in High A. 1 1/3 innings, 7 runs allowed, multiple walks again, 47 pitches, not throwing a ton of strikes, not looking good, getting lit up by some High A hitters. This is not good. Now, Pat Murphy has talked about how it takes time for a guy to regain his touch and feel on pitches when you have a nerve issue like he's had with thoracic outlet syndrome that he's dealing with. They're trying to rehab thoracic outlet syndrome. Most of the time, you don't rehab this type of injury. It requires a surgery, and then you can come back to full strength. And it takes quite a bit of time. And the Brewers are kind of rapidly approaching the recovery timeline where you could push into next season, losing him for some starts, trying to get him to rehab. I understand that they're trying to push him through it and try and see if they can get something out of him for this season. But I think also with the rotation depth that you have, it is going to be a bit easier to withstand the loss of a Quinn Priester, potentially for the entire season. Because continuing to go on like this, it is going to take such a long time for him to regain that touch and that feel to be really kind of effective. I mean, when you're getting lit up by guys in High A, you've already been shut down once from your rehab with shoulder soreness, okay? And thoracic outlet, Like that comes in like at the shoulder. It's a pinched nerve like up here. Now he had the pain starting in his wrist and kind of has radiated and gone up from there. And it's like, oh, it's in the thoracic outlet family. That's because it's a pinched nerve more up here. So for him, when you already have that bout of shoulder soreness and you're trying to pitch through this and the feel for pitching is just not there, you're probably going to be better off shutting Quinn Priester down. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, but when you see the results like this and you see that the stuff just isn't really there and, he's already been shut down once, I just wonder if it's best for the Brewers to just shut Quinn Priester down, tell him, okay, let's just get the surgery and get this taken care of. Because they've been trying to rehab thoracic outlet. Guys have tried it before, and almost every time, they have ultimately ended up choosing surgery. I can't name a single pitcher off the top of my head who was diagnosed with thoracic outlet and was able to successfully rehab the surgery, or successfully rehab without getting the surgery. I haven't heard of one. I haven't seen one come across. So that worries me that they're just kind of continuing to string this along. Eventually, at some point soon here, you're going to get that point of no return where you really have to decide whether it's worth trying to continue on trying to rehab this or if it's better to just shut him down so that you don't lose any of 2027 with him ultimately needing the surgery. It's the same kind of thing when guys have the elbow issue, the forearm tightness or whatever. It's like, you could try and rehab it, be out for 3 months and you end up trying to come back and it could be fine. But even when you come back, you still could have that elbow go and pop, and then you're just further down the line and you're missing more time than you otherwise would have been if you had just gotten the surgery in the first place. So I think it might be time to shut Quinn Priester down for the season and just tell him to get the surgery, and we'll see you in 2027. But the Brewers have not made that decision yet, but that decision may be coming sooner rather than later if he continues to pitch like this on his rehab assignments. All right, so now we have the big series. Everyone's been looking forward to this. Brewers, Cubs, NL Central, top of the division is on the line in this series. Brewers sitting 1.5 games back of the Cubs. They have played 3 fewer games than the Cubs. They have the same amount of losses, these two teams, but the Cubs have 3 more wins because they have played 3 more games. So, what do we got coming up in this series? Brandon Sproat is on the mound today for the Brewers. 5.75 ERA, but that has been largely inflated by his very bad first couple of starts of the season. But Brandon Sproat has been pitching a lot better as of late. Shota Imanaga, the left-hander, is going to be on the mound for the Cubs here tonight. 4-3, 2.32 ERA. He's been good, which is kind of as expected. He's been really good for the Cubs. But Imanaga, the lefty, on the mound for the Cubs today. And then and Brandon Sproat, he's pushed back a day here because Brewers kind of did the TBA thing over the weekend. They pushed Sproat back a day to get him ready for this outing, which means Jacob Misiorowski has been pushed to Tuesday. But you're going to have the Miz Tuesday night at Wrigley facing off against Ben Brown for the Cubs. Ben Brown, a 1.60 ERA, so he's been pretty darn good as well. But Misiorowski with a 2.12 ERA, not too shabby either. And then on Wednesday, the final game of this 3-game series, Kyle Harrison on the mound for the Crew. Edward Cabrera, the right-hander, is on the mound for the Cubs. Cabrera, a 4.06 ERA on the season. Kyle Harrison, a 2.09 ERA on the season. So that's how things line up in terms of the pitching matchups. Obviously, the Cubs have been on a pretty good home winning streak as of late. They've been really good at Wrigley Field this year. The Brewers, they've struggled to have some power on the road, but they're coming off a road series win against Minnesota. Minnesota, a far different club than the Chicago Cubs, but this is a big one for the division here in terms of who can put themselves in a pretty secure position going forward here. If the Brewers win this series, they can gain a game. You're within a half game there of the Chicago Cubs, and you are right in the thick of it. If you sweep them, then you're going up a game and a half on the Chicago Cubs, which is even better. Half game. Game and a half. something like that. But either way, you're going up on the Cubs if you're able to sweep them there. If you lose 2 of 3, then you're down 2.5 games in the division. And the Cubs have themselves a little bit of a cushion there. And of course, if the Cubs sweep, which would be the worst possible outcome, then they're up 4.5 games and absolutely in control of that division and put the Brewers in a very disadvantageous spot. It's still early in the season, but still something to keep an eye on. So it's going to be a fun series. Excited for it. Big rivalry between the Brewers and the Cubs kicking off this week. Brandon Sproat and Shota Imanaga will be the starters here tonight, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow, as we will every single day here on Brewers Daily. So if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops, and follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. Appreciate all of you listening and enjoying, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.